My name is Lana, and this tale is the weaving of my life's thread, a tale spun from sorrow, fire, and fate. It tells of the winding path that led me to become the witch I am today. Long ago, before the mist swallowed the hills and before the ravens forgot our names, there was the kingdom of Gaia, a land of deep green valleys and silver rivers, where dawn rose soft and golden over fields of heather. I was but a peasant girl then, 19 summers old, with more dreams than sense and a heart untested by the cruelties of men. Our world changed on a blood-red morning, when the banners of the House of Ryan darkened our skies. Their soldiers swept upon Gaia like a winter gale, merciless and unrelenting. They came with the cold ring of steel and the stench of smoke, burning everything in their wake. The air itself screamed as homes turned to ash, and the cries of mothers and children were lost beneath the thunder of hooves. I remember the color of it all, firelight and blood mingling in the rain. By nightfall, I knew I would never again see my mother's smile nor hear my father's laughter carried on the wind. The meadows I had known since childhood would become nothing more than ghosts in my memory. That night, I lost everything. Yet that same night was where my true story began, the story not of a victim, but of one who endured. When they found me, I was thrown into a burlap sack, rough and foul with the scent of sweat and soil. I could not see, but I could hear the jangle of armor, the mutter of curses, the crunch of boots over gravel. The men laughed as they marched, their cruelty thick in the air. They spoke of witches, our witches, those who were said to dwell deep in the heart of Gaia's enchanted woodlands. In the old days, we whispered prayers to them under the new moon, leaving offerings of honey and milk by the forest's edge. They were the guardians of the land's spirit, the fruit that ripened in the sun, the ancient oaks that stretched toward the heavens, the very breath of life that stirred in the soil. But to the soldiers of the Ryans, such reverence was nothing but peasant nonsense, tales fit for the drunk and the dying. Their commander, a brute named Olaf, was a man carved from cruelty. His laughter was the sound of stones breaking beneath frost. "Search the warland," he barked, his voice cracking like a whip. "Let's see if these forest hags dare show themselves." The men obeyed, though fear crept into their eyes. For Warland was no ordinary wood, it was old, older than Gaia itself, where the trees whispered secrets to those who would listen, and the mist curled like breath from the mouths of the dead. They said the forest did not welcome strangers, it remembered them. As the wagon jostled beneath me, I listened to the world through the fabric of my prison. The forest's voice was changing, the wind had gone still, the birds had vanished, and even the creak of the wagon wheels seemed muted, swallowed by something unseen. That was when I felt it, the shift in the air, heavy and alive, as though the earth itself was holding its breath. Through a tear in the sack, I caught sight of a shadow slipping between the trees, swift and silent, like a wisp of smoke against the moonlight. For a heartbeat, I thought it a trick of my weary mind. But then came the faint shimmer of something not quite human, a presence that prickled my skin and stirred my blood. Hope, small and stubborn, flickered to life inside me. Could the old stories be true after all? Were the witches watching? I dared not move. I could hear two soldiers walking beside the cart, their voices low and thick with unease. "You know, lad," muttered the elder, his accent rough as gravel. "They say the witches from the coven out west used to feast on the flesh of men. My DA told me he saw one once, eyes like moonlight, teeth sharp as needles." The younger man snorted, though his voice wavered. "Aye, and I suppose she danced with fairies too, did she? You've been too long in your cups, old man. There's no such thing as witches. Only shadows and fools." The elder gave a dark chuckle, the kind that held no joy. "Believe what you will. But this forest listens. It hears our boots and our blades. The witches remember what we've done to their kind. And the forest, well, it remembers too." A silence fell then, so deep that even the horses seemed to tread softer. The younger one swallowed hard but said nothing more. In that stillness, something ancient stirred in me. I could feel it, a low hum beneath my skin, as though my very blood was answering the call of the forest. Fear turned to fire. The stories I had been told as a child were no longer stories. They were roots running deep in my soul. And so, in the dark, I made a vow. I would not die in a sack like a hunted animal. I would not fade into the silence of the forest. I would rise from the ruin of Gaia and claim the power that slept beneath my name. That night, without knowing it, I began the long walk toward what I was always meant to become. The witches were real, and before my tale's end, I would be one of them. The younger soldier let out a soft, amused chuckle, one that carried the careless ease of a man who had not yet learned to fear the unknown. I reclined against the rough boards of the wagon, the uneasy rhythm of its creaking wheels lulling me into a restless calm. A heaviness settled over me then, as though the very air had thickened, pressing down upon my chest. Somewhere in the pit of my stomach, I sensed it, a turning of fate's wheel, slow and deliberate. Something ancient and unseen was drawing near. I closed my eyes, hoping for a moment's peace, and listened. At first, the forest sang with the gentle music of morning. Birdsong trickled like liquid gold through the leaves, soft and lilting, like a tune my mother might have hummed by the hearth. The melody carried a strange warmth, an amber glow that seemed to dance in the air like a Celtic maiden weaving between shafts of light, her laughter brushing against the branches. But as swiftly as a dream turns to nightmare, the tune began to change. The clear notes warped, deepened, and grew heavy. The air trembled with a strange hum, a low, resonant pulse, like the gathering of a crowd unseen. It threaded itself through the world, winding around tree and stone, seeping into the marrow of my bones. The forest no longer sang, it mourned. The whispers grew louder, rising to a trembling symphony that echoed with the cries of the forgotten, ancient screams stretched thin across time, a chorus of vengeance cloaked in wind. It was as though the forest itself had awoken, drawing breath after centuries of slumber. I could feel it stirring beneath the soil, in the roots, in the shadows. Something was coming. Then, as quickly as it had risen, the storm of sound broke and fell away. Silence swept through the woods like a tide, leaving only the soft exhale of the horses and the weary groan of the wagon's frame. Their hooves met the earth in a slow, deliberate rhythm. Birdsong returned, a fragile melody, hesitant and tender, as though the forest itself were testing the air once more. My pulse steadied. I opened my eyes. A hand, cold as dew and pale as moonlight, peeled back the coarse burlap from my face. Light flooded my vision, soft and green, filtered through the towering boughs above. For a heartbeat, I thought I had died and awoken in some other realm. Before me stood three women, each so distinct, so otherworldly, that they seemed carved from the very spirit of the land. To my right stood one clad in a gown of emerald silk, smooth as the surface of still water. Her dark hair flowed freely down her back, shimmering like the night sky after rain. Around her brow was set a crown of woven hazel and willow, delicate yet regal, glinting faintly where droplets of dew clung to it. Her skin held the faintest glow, as though moonlight lingered just beneath it. There was something unearthly about her grace, something that spoke of sacred groves and river spirits. On my left, however, was a woman of wild contrast. Her hair was the color of foxfire, tangled and alive, a cascade of copper and flame that caught the morning light. Her garments were rough spun and travel-worn, stained with earth and ash, her bare feet dark with mud. Black ink adorned her skin in swirling patterns, markings like ancient runes running down her fingers and circling her wrists. Across her face, I saw a single black line tracing the bridge of her nose, and upon her brow, etched in soot or magic, the three phases of the moon, waxing, full, and waning. They shimmered faintly, breathing with her pulse. And between them stood the third, a woman whose beauty defied reason. Her hair shimmered like spun sunlight, cascading over her shoulders in soft curls that caught the glow of morning dew. But it was her eyes that held me captive, a deep, shifting hue between blue and violet, like twilight before the stars wake. They glimmered with wisdom and sorrow, ancient as the stones beneath us. When she looked at me, I felt as though my soul had been seen, laid bare and weighed upon scales I could not see. I curled my arms and legs beneath me, shivering as the chill of the forest air licked at my skin. The scent of moss, smoke, and crushed fern filled my lungs. The three women stood before me in a silent triangle, their gazes locked in some unspoken accord. Then, one by one, they began to speak. Their voices rose in a melody of words I did not know, a tongue that rippled like running water, old as the hills themselves. Each syllable shimmered with music and meaning, though I could not understand it. It was not mere speech, it was song, incantation, prayer, and command all at once. The fiery-haired woman was the first to break into clarity. Her voice was raw, powerful, and carried the authority of storm and sea. Naya var hail. Fabia Yogans Tor, she cried, her tone fierce and resolute, the air around her trembling with unseen force. Her words seemed to ripple through the world, like stones cast into a still pond. The birds stilled. The trees listened. Even the light seemed to pause in its descent through the branches. I did not yet know what her words meant, but I felt them. Deep in my blood, in the marrow of who I was. They spoke of awakening. Of old powers stirring. Of a destiny being claimed. And as I sat there, shivering in the dew-soaked grass, I knew with a certainty that I was no longer a prisoner. I was in the presence of something ancient. Something that had been waiting for me. Her fury was a living thing, wild and sharp as the sea in winter. It rolled off her in waves, a tempest barely contained within mortal form. The air seemed to shiver around her, heavy with a storm's promise. Across from her, the woman with hair black as the midnight sky held her ground, her eyes gleaming like two polished stones beneath moonlight. Though smaller in stature, her presence filled the space between them, calm, deliberate, ancient. She spoke not a word, but her silence carried its own power. With graceful hands, she moved as if weaving unseen threads in the air, trying to tame the rage that burned before her. Sa fen yus von hail to morleg pal sismains k, came a soft voice, lilting and melodic. The woman in the center, her golden hair shimmering like sunlight caught in river water, had spoken. Her tone was gentle but held the kind of authority born not from command, but from understanding. She looked at me then, her blue-violet eyes full of knowing. Worry creased her fair brow as if she could sense every ache and shadow of what I had endured. "We will speak in a tongue she can understand," she said, her voice warm as a hearth in winter, and turned fully toward me. "My name is Altaluna." The name stirred something deep within me. It resonated like the ringing of a silver bell, a name I knew not just in memory, but in blood. My mother's name. Altaluna. Grand Moon. The syllables shimmered in the air as though blessed by the night itself. The dark-haired woman inclined her head, her motion as fluid as the bending of a willow. "I am Irdis," she said simply. Her voice was steady, shaped by wisdom and patience. There was a softness to it, the kind that could calm even the fiercest wind. At that moment, the red-haired woman, flame-haired as a fox and twice as cunning, turned sharply on her heel, her boots biting into the earth. "Jester," she spat, her brogue thick with indignation. "Voronina." Irdis called after her, half reprimand, half sigh. The way she said the name was both weary and fond, like a mother calling after a child who'd long since stopped listening. "Don't heed her," she murmured to me, shaking her head with an affectionate smile. "She's a storm in human skin, that one. But her heart's not half as wild as her tongue." Altaluna reached for me then, her hands soft and warm as she helped me down from the wagon. "Come," she said gently, "you've spent enough time in darkness." The air was cool, and as my feet touched the earth, I felt the land hum beneath me. Together we began our walk, Altaluna leading, Irdis beside me, and Voronina stomping ahead, her fiery hair a banner in the morning mist. Voronina tossed her words over her shoulder, her tone sharp as thorns. Why do we speak the mortal's tongue if she hasn't the courtesy to answer? Though I understood her perfectly, my voice would not rise. It was as if a spell had fallen over me, a silence not of fear, but of transformation. My very soul seemed caught between breaths. Altaluna noticed. She slowed her pace and turned to me, her expression softening. "Easy, child," she whispered, offering her hand once more. When I placed mine in hers, warmth flowed into me, pure and golden. It seeped through my skin, curling through my veins like sunlight through mist. My chest loosened, my throat uncoiled, and the world around me stirred to life. I could hear again the rustle of leaves, the hush of distant waters, even the murmuring of the roots below. Voronina's voice rose again, sharp and quick. Perhaps she's struck dumb. Or perhaps she's too proud to speak. Irdis turned, her patience fraying like old linen. "She'll speak when the time calls it," she said evenly. "Or not at all. The voice is a gift of the soul, not a toy for your jesting." Voronina scowled. "You'd defend a stranger over your own kin?" Irdis tilted her head, smirking. "Depends on the stranger." At least she's quiet. Altaluna laughed softly, like bells carried on wind. Enough, the both of you, she said, her tone as calm and commanding as a tide. We're here. Before us the path sloped downward, a narrow ribbon of earth winding into a valley of mist and shadow. Along its edge stood 5 ancient trees, their trunks wide and gnarled with age. They rose like sentinels, their branches draped with moss that shimmered faintly in the dappled light. Each tree bore markings, symbols carved deep into the bark, spirals, knots, and sigils that pulsed faintly as if alive. This is the evergreen, Voronina said quietly, her tone shifting from sharp to reverent. She stepped forward, her eyes glinting like embers. And then, in a voice that seemed not her own, she began to sing. The song was low at first, a hum that curled around the roots and climbed the air. Then it grew, swelling into a melody so haunting it made the very forest tremble. The words were in no tongue I knew, yet they filled me with both awe and sorrow. Her voice wove through the trees, and with each note, the mists around us thickened. One by one, her form dissolved into it, first her feet, then her hands, until only her song remained, lingering like perfume in the air. Irdis followed, her song rising in harmony, clear and crystalline. The two voices twined together, threading the veil between worlds. Altaluna turned to me. Come, Lana, she murmured, her eyes gleaming. The way is open, but only for those who trust. Her hand found mine again. I wanted to speak, to ask what she meant, but the words would not come. Instead, she smiled, her thick Scottish accent curling through her final words like a blessing. Just breathe, lass, and believe that you're going where you're meant to be. The ground beneath me felt alive. The rich soil pressed softly against my feet, damp and fragrant with rain and earth. Around us, the trees swayed as if in welcome. I took a breath and felt it, the rhythm of the forest, slow and patient, like the beating of a great heart. I began to move, not walking, not dancing, but something between the two. My steps found their own rhythm, my body guided by the pulse of unseen drums. The mist swirled around me, cool and glowing, and the last echoes of the witch's song folded themselves into my soul. When I blinked again, they were gone. I stood within a circle of stone and shadow, the prayer room of the coven, where the air itself hummed with reverence. Here the witches gathered not to worship, but to listen, to the trees, to the wind, to the orchestra of life that bound all things together. And as the stillness settled, I knew, this was no end to my journey. It was my beginning. There stood a woman, aged and time-worn, her back bent like a bow beneath the weight of all the seasons she had carried. Her skin was pale as moonlit milk, seeming to give off its own faint glow against the emerald dusk that framed her. Long strands of grey-white hair tumbled down her shoulders, shimmering faintly with hues of silver and frost, as though each thread had been spun from winter's breath itself. Her robe was a wonder to behold, a garment of deep forest green, embroidered with vines and blossoms that seemed almost alive, curling and shifting with every movement she made. Tiny bells of heather and stitchwort crowned her hair, their petals trembling in the breeze, and in her right hand she held a bundle of solar sticks, slender wands of yew and light, each one catching the sun's dying glow like a promise kept. Before her, upon a small stone altar, lay a horn-shaped fruit, unlike anything I had ever seen in this world or any other. It gleamed faintly, its skin iridescent with shades of amber and rose, cradled within a vessel made from bark and bone. Around her, the air was thick with the scent of peat smoke and wild thyme, of harvest and hearth. She was no mere woman. She was the spirit of the land itself, the waning of summer, the still heart of winter, and the trembling breath of spring all woven into flesh. Her eyes, when they found mine, were clear and ancient, wells of deep remembrance. At first there was confusion in them, like a dreamer half-wakened, and then a slow dawning realization. She tilted her head ever so slightly, and the faintest smile curved her lips. "Well now," she murmured, her voice rich and musical, heavy with the lilt of the old tongue. "By the bones o' the hills. I never thought these eyes would rest upon you. Not in this lifetime, nor the next." She took a small step forward, her cane tapping the earth softly. "I'd thought myself long gone to the soil before I'd ever meet the great Lana," she said, her eyes twinkling with something between mirth and sorrow. Instinct drove me back a pace, my pulse quickening. She noticed, and for a heartbeat, Her expression shifted, not to anger, but to pity. "Ah, easy now, child," she said, her tone softer than a lullaby. "I'll not harm ye. The world's sharp enough without me adding teeth to it." She stretched out her hand, slow and careful, fingers trembling with age but steady with intent. "Come closer, lass. I've stories worth the listening to, and no tales meant to be told to an empty hearth." Still, mistrust gnawed at me. I cast a glance about the grove for anything that could serve as a weapon, but the forest held its breath, still and watchful, like an audience before a revelation. She chuckled lightly, reading my thoughts. I see that look in your eye. Your mother had it, too, the wary kind, never trust in shadows till she'd spoken their true names." Her mention of my mother struck a chord deep within me, and for a long moment, all I could do was stare. "You can stand there shivering in your bones, or you can take comfort in a warm bed and bread soft from the oven," she teased, lowering her hand and straightening as much as her frame would allow. At that, my stomach betrayed me, growling loud enough to echo through the clearing. Her smile deepened, though her gaze softened with concern. "Ah, poor creature. Hunger's a crueler spirit than fear. Come then." Something within me, some quiet instinct older than logic, urged me forward. Slowly, I took a few steps, stopping a safe distance away as she turned toward a great tree at the heart of the grove. It was unlike any I had ever seen. Its leaves glowed a deep cerulean blue, whispering softly in a wind I could not feel. The bark was black as polished obsidian, streaked with veins of silver that pulsed like living light. Heavy, radiant fruits hung from its branches, dripping golden sap that shimmered as it fell. "This," she said, her voice reverent, "is Cran an Angel, the tree of paradise, the heart of the old world and the keeper of its secrets." She reached up and plucked one of the horn-shaped fruits, holding it aloft like a relic. "This fruit is your mother, child, rare, strange, and not meant for ordinary soil." Her thumb brushed the fruit's surface, and for a moment it glowed faintly. "When she left this place," she whispered, "she sought to understand the lands beyond the mists, but the world outside is never as kind as the one we imagine." Her voice trailed off, and I leaned closer, caught in the pull of her words. But something beyond her drew my gaze, a structure in the distance, vast and terrible. It was a circle wrought not of stone, but of bone, the bones of man and beast, woven together with sinew and shadow. Skulls crowned its arch, and between the gaps, faint green fire flickered like ghost light. Even the air around it shuddered, bending the light as though reality itself strained to contain it. I froze, the hairs on my neck rising. She followed my gaze, and her tone changed, low, almost mournful. "Aye," she murmured. "That's the gate of the lost. It listens for souls that wander too close." Her eyes turned back to me, grave and bright all at once. "Don't look too long, Lana. It has a way of remembering the faces that stare." With a strength that belied her years, the old woman hurled the shining fruit into the heart of the swirling green portal. The air cracked open with the sound of splintering worlds. As the fruit vanished into that gaping maw of light and shadow, a dreadful cacophony erupted, a sound like an iron train screeching across a bed of bones, mingled with the hollow wails of 1,000 lost souls. Their cries coiled through the clearing like wind through the reeds, thin and piercing, each note steeped in sorrow older than time itself. I stumbled back, my heart thundering. She turned toward me then, her eyes gleaming like peat embers in the half-light. "And your mother," she said, her voice dripping with contempt, "was swallowed by the dark, by her own frailty. She let the world of men bend her spine and break her will. She forgot the blood that runs in her veins." Her words cut deep, venom wrapped in truth. A fire flared within me, wild and unforgiving. I'd had enough of her scorn. My mother's name was sacred. It would not be defiled by this twisted relic of the old ways. Rage took me whole. I seized a thick branch from the earth and charged, my blood hot as forge fire, my vision narrowing until all I saw was her smirking face. But before I could close the distance, the air itself shifted, the wind turned sharp and still, as though the world had drawn a breath and refused to let it go. Then it struck. An invisible coil wound around my limbs, cold as death. I froze mid-stride, my body rebelling against my will. It was not pain at first, but pressure, a tightening that began in my veins and spread outward, until my very blood felt as though it were turning to iron. My knees buckled. My spine twisted. My arms jerked upward, pulled by unseen strings until I hung suspended before her, my body contorted and trembling. She did not touch me, yet I felt her inside me, in the rhythm of my pulse, in the thrum of my heart. She was turning my own blood against me. It was fuel Draocht, the blood magic of the ancients, a craft so forbidden that even the gods spat its name. Her eyes glowed red beneath her lashes, and her voice came low, almost tender. Now, lass, she said, as if chiding a child. We've no need for such anger between kin. My breath caught. Kin? I rasped. Aye, she said, with the calm of one revealing something long inevitable. You're mine, through and through. My blood, my line, my granddaughter. The world tilted. I hung there in stunned silence, her words spinning through my skull like a curse. Your mother should have never run, she went on, pacing before me, her robe whispering across the moss. She thought herself clever, hiding you among men, thinking she could smother the storm before it was born. But the sisters of fate told me long ago, my heart's desire would come to me wrapped in moonlight and ash. She stopped and smiled, a grin both tender and terrible. And here you stand. With a flick of her wrist, she released the spell. My body dropped like a stone. I hit the earth hard, gasping, every muscle screaming. She bent to look at me, her tone softening to a purr. Your mother was mighty, she admitted. Stronger than I ever was. But destiny marked her womb for a higher purpose, to birth a siren of the old craft. And you, my sweet cub, are one of the four. I lay there, trembling, the dirt cold beneath my palms. My mother's memory burned behind my eyes, her laughter, her fear, the way she used to hum to the moon when she thought no one was listening. I understood, then, that she hadn't fled out of weakness, but love. She'd wanted to save me from this inheritance of shadows. The old witch exhaled, her patience waning. With a lazy wave of her hand, the stiffness in my limbs dissolved, leaving me hollow and light-headed. You'll come to see it, child. Power isn't a curse. It's the only truth this world ever offers. She turned, motioning for me to follow. Though my heart screamed to run, my feet betrayed me, drawn by some unspoken tether. Her dwelling was a strange and crooked place, part cottage, part shrine, its walls built of root and stone. Smoke curled from a cauldron set into the floor, filling the air with the smell of nettles, iron, and blood. Charms dangled from the rafters, bones of hare and crow, beads of amber, feathers slick with oil. You may rest wherever you like, she said, her tone suddenly bright, mocking almost. You're a princess now, my dear. Royal by blood, fated by prophecy. I said nothing, only followed as she glided across the uneven floor. She paused beside a weathered barrel, upon which sat a bottle carved from blackened glass, etched with runes that pulsed faintly. She lifted it to her lips, took a long drink, and without warning, flung the rest to the ground. The bottle shattered, scattering sharp pieces across the flagstones. We both stood staring at the fragments, each shard catching the dim firelight like a captured star. The most beautiful things, she murmured, her voice distant, are the ones that break. Her gaze slid toward me, sharp and knowing. And you, child, you will break, too. But oh, how you'll shine when you do. My skin prickled at her words. There was something terrible and mesmerizing in her, something that pulled at me even as it filled me with dread. Her eyes, dark as bog water, shimmered with the faintest trace of red, the color of old wine, of spilled blood. Come now, she said finally, a sly smile tugging at her lips. It's time you met the rest. With that, she turned and pushed open a great oak door bound in iron. A strange wind spilled from within, carrying the scent of sea salt and thunder. The space beyond was bathed in shifting light, green and gold, alive and ancient. I hesitated at the threshold, fear clawing at my ribs. But curiosity, that treacherous, human hunger, drove me forward. And as I crossed into the unknown, the door groaned shut behind me like the closing of a grave. It was a sight to steal the breath straight from my chest, a vision wrought from dream and myth. The air shimmered with life, filled with the soft, lilting chorus of birdsong that danced upon the wind like whispered blessings from the old gods. Each note carried a story, each trill an echo of the sacred heart of the land itself. Great trees, gnarled and proud, stood like sentinels of ages long forgotten, their mossy crowns swaying in the gentle breeze, murmuring secrets in a tongue older than time. The village nestled within their embrace was alive with motion, yet curiously hushed of men. Women moved in graceful rhythm, their laughter rippling like a stream through heathered hills. They worked with hands skilled by generations, spinning thread from flax, grinding herbs into fragrant powders, baking bread whose scent carried through the glen like a prayer of gratitude. Here, it seemed, womanhood itself had woven the laws of the realm. No man's voice rang through the square, no heavy step disturbed the harmony. The homes were unlike any I had seen, rounded and earthen, as though the soil had risen up willingly to cradle those within. Their walls were set with smooth river stones and knotted roots, bound together by sap and spell. Leaves adorned their roofs in shimmering hues of gold and green, forming living canopies that whispered when the wind passed through. A network of golden-bricked paths wound through the village like sunbeams caught in solid form, glimmering beneath bare feet that tread with reverence. Beyond, the river gleamed, a silver ribbon under the morning sun, its surface teeming with fish the color of gems, darting to and fro as though they carried the souls of ancient spirits. The air was ripe with the perfume of blooming meadowsweet and wild rose, and the clouds drifted lazily above like tufts of wool spun by the hands of the gods. All around me, there was an energy, a pulsing life that spoke of sacred harmony, of a land deeply loved and fiercely guarded. Then, through this still enchantment, her voice rose, clear as a bell rung in a chapel of stone. With arms stretched wide to the heavens, she called out, "Blessed be the coven, blessed be the sisterhood." Her tone carried the weight of ritual, warm yet commanding, and the women turned as one, their skirts swaying like waves as they stepped into the soft earth. Raising their right hands high, they echoed her words with reverence, the chant weaving through the air like a hymn older than language. Their eyes soon found me, the stranger in their midst, the one who did not belong. The hum of whispers swelled and broke, their expressions shifting like weather, curiosity, fear, and something almost like pity. "This young one," the woman declared, her gaze sweeping across them like a benediction. "Lana, child of the wandering blood, will dwell among us. She shall walk our paths and share in our bread." Murmurs rippled through the gathering. Some women bowed their heads in respect, others turned away, lips pressed tight as if swallowing their unease. "I know well," she continued, her eyes bright as a stormlit sea, "that we have never opened our gates to outsiders. But the oracles came to me in dream, and her voice was clear as the morning lark. She showed me this girl's face, woven into the tapestry of our fate. Her presence is no accident. She is part of the story we must tell." A small child stepped forward, her cheeks flushed pink, eyes like polished chestnuts. "How many did I show you, lady?" she asked, her voice trembling with awe. The woman smiled, her expression deep as prophecy. "All 7, she replied, and at once, a collective gasp stirred the air like wind through reeds. "Yes," she continued, "Janus, eldest among us, keeper of the cards, holds their fates. His deck bears the omens of all living souls, their choices, their burdens, their destinies. Whether they rise toward blessing or fall into misfortune, he alone knows how the threads are spun." And as the murmuring faded, I felt the weight of their gazes settle upon me like mist, curious, cautious, yet full of an unspoken knowing. In that moment, beneath the watchful eyes of ancient oaks and the song of unseen spirits, I understood. I had stepped into a world not merely of women, but of wonders, where fate itself was a living thing, and my own story had already begun to weave its way into theirs. Among them, Sagan, the second eldest, bore a spirit too wild to be confined to the firmament. Where his kin turned their gaze to the vault of stars, Sagan's eyes wandered downward, to the mortal realm, where fires burned in the hearths of humankind and laughter echoed across green valleys. It was said he often descended from the heavens, cloaked in mist, to walk among the folk of the earth, drawn by their songs, their sorrows, and their short, bright lives. Yet beneath his untamed heart lay a terrible burden. For Sagan was keeper of Unchorn Dairid, the last horn, forged from the bone of a dying star. When it was sounded, it would mark the twilight hour between life and death, the breath before all things ceased or began anew. Its call could summon the souls of the fallen or silence the heartbeat of worlds. Many feared it, but Sagan guarded it with solemn grace, though he carried its weight like a curse carved into his very spirit. His twin, Vels, was his mirror and his contrast, the embodiment of creation itself. Vels was the first to breathe life into the void, having sounded the first horn, whose note gave birth to dawn and the turning of the first tide. His voice was gentle, his power vast. Where Sagan's heart longed for the chaos of mortals, Vels was the rhythm of beginnings, the eternal hum of becoming. They were two sides of the same divine coin, one to call life forth, the other to end it when the circle came full. Then there was Runeth, fairest of form, whom the bards called the sound of the omniverse. His beauty was said to halt storms and calm seas, yet it was his music that bewitched the heavens. He carried a strange instrument, neither harp nor lute, a long oaken staff crowned with a hollow orb, its silver strings stretched taut across its body. When Runeth strummed them, the sound was not merely heard but felt, reverberating through the marrow of the world. Each note carried whispers from other realms, weaving threads between what was and what might be. Even the stars themselves seemed to pulse in time with his melody. Mara followed him, radiant as midsummer yet bound by the cruel paradox of her existence. She was the goddess of sight, yet she herself was blind. She carried a lantern of living flame, gifted by the spirits of dawn. Through it, she saw not with eyes but with light, the truth of hearts, the shape of souls. Wherever her lantern's glow fell, clarity bloomed. It was said that her flame could banish deceit, and her laughter, though soft and fleeting, was a light that never waned. And there was Natrix, whose presence hummed with the warmth of life itself. Upon her head she bore a great bowl of sacred broth, the broth of being, a shimmering elixir that symbolized flow, fertility, and the eternal heartbeat of the universe. When she poured it upon barren earth, the land flowered with emerald green and wild heather. When she offered it to weary souls, their hearts grew lighter, their burdens less cruel. Hers was the power of nurture, of rivers and wombs, of the endless cycle of giving and receiving. Last of them stood Amate, veiled in a mantle of golden thread that shimmered like sunlight on the edge of a storm. The cloth clung to her in restless motion, sometimes transparent as smoke, sometimes dense as molten metal. Within her shimmered all the contradictions of existence: touch and ruin, desire and decay, tenderness and war. She was the pulse of force and famine, of destruction and rebirth, and those who dared to gaze too long into her shifting light saw their own truths reflected back, beautiful, terrible, and unflinching. When they gathered, the air thickened with power. Each sibling wore robes of spun starlight and sunfire, while I stood among them, cloaked only in a simple garb of woven leaves, feeling smaller than a wisp in a tempest. Then Mara, the matriarch, the voice of the coven, raised her hand, and the heavens themselves seemed to hush. "She comes," Mara murmured, her eyes like deep pools reflecting starlit tides. "The girl of the prophecy, Lana, the one who shall dwell among you and rise as a witch of great power." Her hand traced a line through the air, painting constellations in invisible ink, her gesture brimming with Natrix's grace. I followed her gaze, and there, amid the glow of divine light, stood Altaluna, the girl who once saved my life. Her hair flowed like pale sunlight over her shoulders, her eyes alight with something ancient, something familiar. A smile tugged at my lips before I could restrain it. A strange current ran through me, like moonlit water lapping at my soul. My skin tingled. My heart raced. The mere thought of her touch stirred something deep, unspoken, and frighteningly human within me. I could feel her gaze meet mine across the gathering, and in that silent instant, the space between us seemed to hum with possibility. "That is why Lana must stay," Mama declared, her voice trembling but resolute. The words left her mouth before I fully knew I'd spoken them. Mama turned, pride gleaming in her eyes. She took my chin gently, guiding my face toward the assembly of women arrayed beneath the vast elder tree whose branches spread like a cathedral's vault above us. "She will be made a witch within the turning of a week," Mama proclaimed, her voice ringing clear as a bell in the stillness. The gathered sisters shifted uneasily, some doubtful, some curious, all alert. I too felt uncertainty gnawing within me. Could I truly become what destiny demanded in so short a span? Yet amid that doubt, a spark flickered to life, a fragile flame of hope, burning softly but refusing to die. For in that moment, beneath the whispering branches and the watchful stars, I knew something ancient had awakened, and the threads of our fates were already being woven anew. The women began to clap, slow and steady, their palms striking like the beat of thunder rolling across the hills. Their voices rose in a haunting chorus, an old tongue that stirred something deep within me. The melody was unlike any mortal song. It carried the rise and fall of the wind over heathered moors, the whisper of tides against stone, the heartbeat of the earth itself. It called to something older than I could name. A shiver coursed through me, a cold thrill that climbed my spine and nestled behind my ribs, as if the song were not merely being sung but breathed into my soul. From the heart of the circle stepped Luna, tall, radiant, and fierce as the dawn breaking over the cliffs of Anise Vale. Her presence washed over the crowd like sunlight through storm clouds, commanding without words. Around her, the women's energy gathered, golden and alive, swirling like the dance of will-o'-the-wisps upon a midsummer bog. Though they regarded me as one might a long-lost treasure, something rare and fated, Luna's eyes were different. Hers held depths that unsettled me. There was a flicker of recognition, perhaps even longing, hidden beneath the surface. I dared not ask what it meant, nor let myself dwell upon it. So I cast my fear aside and joined the circle, letting the rhythm carry me, feet tracing the sacred spiral in the soil, hands raised in mimicry of the moon. They danced as their foremothers had, each movement a prayer, a plea for balance, a song of belonging. The air thrummed with power, wild, ancient, and distinctly feminine. When the chant waned, we gathered around a great oak table, its surface gnarled with age and carved with symbols of the old gods, spirals, knots, and triskels interwoven like veins of magic. Before me, a cup was placed, wooden, rimmed with silver, and filled with a golden nectar said to flow from the eyes of the bull, a draught brewed for courage and remembrance. I lifted it hesitantly and took a sip. The taste was unlike anything I'd known, sweet yet sharp, like honey stirred with smoke. It clung to my tongue, warm and alive, and for a moment I swore I could hear faint echoes of laughter, of mothers and daughters long dead sharing secrets in the wind. The drink filled me with a strange serenity, a tether to their world. Across the table, Luna's laughter rang out, a soft, lilting sound, light as the flutter of a robin's wings in springtime. It danced through the air, drawing smiles from the others, breaking the heaviness that often followed ritual. Then a voice, clear and cool as a mountain stream, spoke from the table's end. "If you don't mind my asking, child," said the pale-haired woman seated beneath a wreath of dried rowan leaves, "where do you hail from?" Her hair fell like a river of snow, her skin nearly translucent in the candlelight. The air around her seemed older, heavy with the gravity of one who had seen too much. She carried herself like a chieftain, stern, composed, and wearied by long battles, her eyes shadowed by the weight of memory. Without thought, the words slipped from my lips as though carried by another's will or spill. "I come from the kingdom of Gaia," I said softly, my voice trembling. "But it has fallen to invaders." The admission struck the air like a blade through silk. The music stilled. Every gaze turned toward me. My chest tightened as the truth of it spilled into the open, the grief I'd buried deep, the ache of a home turned to ash. The table blurred as tears threatened, but I would not let them fall. Unable to bear their pity, I rose from my seat. Silence followed me as I stepped away, each footfall echoing against the earthen floor. "Ruya!" Luna's voice broke the stillness, sharp as flint striking stone. "You've lost your sense entirely. What madness made you speak so?" The white-haired woman, Ruya, lifted her chin, unrepentant. "She's an outsider," she said, her tone cold as a winter tide. "A stranger to our circle. We are battle witches, sworn to protect this place. I only speak what others think." Luna's chair scraped against the floor as she surged to her feet. Her eyes flashed like lightning over the moors. "She was meant to be here. Do you not hear the voice of fate when it calls? The gods, the stars, even the bones of the earth have whispered her name." Before the storm could break, Irdis, calm and even-tempered, laid a steady hand on Luna's arm. "Peace, sister. You shame yourself before the mother." Her voice was gentle but firm, her expression weary of strife. "Are you siding with them now?" Altaluna snapped, her anger trembling like a drawn bowstring. There are no sides, Irdis replied, eyes serene as still water. Only the middle path, and truth walks it alone. You both see a part, not the whole. Altaluna's breath came quick and fierce, but she said nothing more. With a shake of her head, she turned and strode after me, her cloak trailing like smoke. Behind her, the room filled with murmurs. Mama, Voronina said, turning toward the head of the table. You can't truly believe this is the girl from your visions. The elder woman, Mama, the matron of their order, lifted her bowl, sipping her broth with the calm of the ages. Her smile was small but knowing, as if she'd already seen the end of the story unfold. Ruya, Voronina, she said, her voice a melody of warmth and authority. The two of you have always fought best when fighting together. Do not waste your strength quarreling with shadows. Her words carried the weight of prophecy, but neither sister relented. They sat stiffly, eyes burning with old wounds and pride. Later, I would come to understand their bond, the kinship that transcended blood. They were forged together beneath the same moon, shaped by hardship, their magic honed by blade and battle. The Kaltianas, the lost daughters, the warriors of the coven. Once dismissed as weak, they had learned to turn their craft into weaponry, to bend spells into spears, and carve their names into the annals of the old ways. In that moment, though, all I saw was their fear of change, fear of me. To them, I was an omen, a disruption in the balance they'd fought so hard to preserve. But amid their unease, I felt something else stirring, a quiet pull, like the tide to the moon. The air itself seemed to hum around me, unseen hands urging me onward, whispering in a tongue older than memory. You are not alone. The path is calling. The story is not yet written. And though I could not yet name it, I sensed that I had crossed a threshold from which there was no return. But let me bring you back to that moonlit lakeside, where the night held its breath and the waters whispered secrets older than time itself. The air was thick with the scent of heather and rain-soaked earth, and the silver glow of the moon laid a trembling path upon the lake's surface, as if it were inviting us to step into another world entirely. I remember how the reeds swayed in slow, deliberate motion, and the soft hum of crickets wove through the stillness like a spell of its own. It was there that Altaluna appeared beside me, her figure half veiled in mist and moonlight, like a spirit summoned from the old songs the elders used to hum when the fire burned low. I hastily wiped my tears, hoping the night might conceal my shame. There was something in her presence that felt larger than life, something both terrible and beautiful. She carried herself like one touched by the gods, her every step deliberate, her every breath heavy with the weight of unseen worlds. I felt small beside her, like a mortal who had stumbled too close to something divine. Without a word, she settled herself against a moss-slick stone, her gown flowing about her like liquid silver. Slowly, she reached out, her fingers brushing against mine before entwining them, her touch cool as moonlit water. My heart thudded so hard I feared she could hear it. My father used to tell me Gaia was so beautiful he could have spent 1 billion moons there, she murmured, her voice lilting like an old Irish tune, soft, melodic, but laced with melancholy. A small laugh escaped her, light as a ripple across still water, though it soon faded, leaving only that sorrowful glint in her eyes. You have a father? I asked before I could stop myself, the question tumbling out like a startled bird. For a moment, she looked at me as though she'd forgotten what the word meant. Then a wistful smile touched her lips, and she gave the smallest shake of her head. I. In name, perhaps. He was but a man my mother met once. We witches, we're not born the way others are. We come from the lake itself, the very waters Yve got your feet dipped in. At that, I drew my legs back sharply, startled, and the cold air bit at my ankles. How? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Altaluna laughed then, a sound bright and strange, like chimes caught in a storm. Magic is how, my dear. The lake is our cradle and our grave. Every drop knows our name. Despite myself, I smiled, though a tremor of unease passed through me. There was mystery in her words, ancient, wild, untamed. I've never spoken this much before. I confessed after a pause, my voice small. Not to anyone. Her expression softened, and she leaned closer, resting her head gently against my shoulder. And why's that? She asked, her hand finding my arm, gripping it as if to anchor me to the earth. "Because of my past," I whispered. "My father sold me to a man. A cruel one. He used to say women were born only to serve, and each day he made me believe it more." Altaluna's grip tightened, her voice low and fierce when she spoke. "The man was a fool. He didn't see the fire that lives in you. But I see it, Lana. You're not what they told you to be. You're one of us now." Something inside me broke then, something brittle and long suppressed. I pressed a trembling kiss to her forehead, and for a heartbeat, the world fell away. The lake stilled. The night sighed. For the first time, I felt peace. I imagined a new life, one shaped not by men's cruelty but by the wild rhythm of magic, sisterhood, and strength. When we finally rose to leave, the moon had climbed higher, and the path ahead gleamed faintly gold. "I don't even know where I'll sleep tonight," I said with a nervous laugh, half hoping she might take pity on me. Her lips curved into a knowing grin. "You'll stay with me and my girls. There's room enough for one more." I hesitated. "I'm not sure they'll take kindly to me." Altaluna gave a playful roll of her eyes and tugged me by the arm. "Ah, they'll come around. We've lived too long shut away from the world. Change takes time, but it always comes. Like the tide, it leaves, but it always returns." I chuckled at that, my nerves easing. "You're wiser than you look," I teased. She laughed, truly laughed, and the sound of it was pure music, carrying through the trees like a blessing. When we reached her home, my breath caught. It was no cottage but a living thing, a garden woven into a dwelling, where ivy curled along the walls like veins and the air shimmered with enchantment. Fireflies floated in clusters, their golden glow dancing among the branches, and from the center of the floor rose a fountain, its waters glowing faintly blue. The other girls were gathered round it, splashing, laughing, reaching into the rippling surface as though catching stars. I stood in the doorway, spellbound. "It's beautiful," I whispered. Altaluna turned to me, her eyes soft but gleaming. "Aye," she said quietly. "It's home. And if the lake willed it, it can be yours too." And for the first time in many moons, I dared to believe her. Irdis's smile faded in a blink, her warmth swallowed whole by a shadow of unease that crossed her fair face like the passing of a storm cloud over the moon. The air in the room thickened, as though the very walls had drawn a breath and were waiting for what would come next. Then came Voronina, her boots striking the floor with a rhythm sharp enough to cleave the silence. Her presence was a storm in itself, her temper brewing like thunder over the hills. "And you mean to tell me you didn't know this stranger was sleeping beneath our roof?" she demanded, her voice cutting through the air like a blade freshly honed. Her eyes, pale as sea glass and twice as cold, swept the room with an unspoken warning. I was not welcome here. Altaluna, however, remained unruffled. She stood tall, her golden hair spilling down her back like strands of sunlight caught in the dawn mist. "She has nowhere else to lay her head," she replied softly, her tone like honey drizzled over stone, sweet but firm. "She'll stay with us tonight." Voronina's lip curled in irritation. "You play your little games too freely, Altaluna," she snapped, her voice echoing down the spiral stairs as she descended in disgust. But Altaluna only laughed, a gentle, chiming sound that seemed to soothe the very air itself. She followed after her, her movements all grace and ease, where Voronina's were fire and iron. I stood frozen, unsure whether to follow or flee, feeling as though I had stumbled uninvited into a sacred song. Voronina paused at the base of the staircase, perching on the edge of the wishing well that shimmered faintly in the candlelight. Her face was a mask of warring emotion, disgust, sorrow, perhaps even fear. Then, with a flick of her cloak, she turned away and slipped into the far corner, where the glow of the hearthlight could not reach her, moving to another place far from us. Altaluna's hand found mine, soft yet commanding, and she guided me closer to the center of the room. "This," she said, her voice low and melodic, "is what we call a wu pen." The word curled strangely on my tongue. "A wu pen." I tried, but it came out stiff and foreign. Altaluna smiled, stepping closer until her breath mingled with mine. She placed her fingers gently against my lips, shaping them like a sculptor correcting her clay. "Wu pen," she whispered again, slower this time, her eyes gleaming with amusement. Wu Pen, I echoed at last, the syllables rolling smoother now. Her laughter broke forth, bright and delicate, like a linnet song at dawn. There now, you'll catch on quick enough, same as the rest of us, she said, resting her hands lightly on my arms, her touch grounding yet kind. Say this with me, Lana, she coaxed, her gaze locking on mine, brimming with quiet power. I will be the most powerful which this land has ever birthed. I hesitated, unsure if I had the right to speak such bold words. But her eyes held mine, steady and certain, and before I could think to stop myself, I repeated, I will be the most powerful which this land has ever birthed. The words rolled from me like a vow, and with them, I felt the faintest stirring, an ember-catching flame deep in my chest. At the edge of the room, Eardis clicked her tongue impatiently. You move slower than a bull with a broken leg, she said dryly, crossing her arms as she watched us from beneath her silver-black hair. We moved then, drifting through their forest home, a place unlike any other. The sky above was open, a brilliant expanse of blue alive with drifting clouds that looked almost close enough to touch. Beneath our feet, the rivers ran like veins of light, weaving through carpets of moss and blossoms in colors so vivid they could have shamed the rainbow itself. It felt alive, every leaf, every breath of wind, every ripple of water seemed to hum with an energy that wrapped around my soul. It's barren, I murmured, though even as I said it, I knew it wasn't true. There was life everywhere, pulsing quietly, waiting to be understood. Altaluna smiled faintly. That's how we live, love. The witches of the Midwest don't believe in walls or roofs like the red clover do. Our home breathes with us. The red clover? I asked, my voice small amidst such grandeur. Altaluna chuckled, her laugh like the rustle of birch leaves. Another coven. They worship their own gods, different from ours. Their hearts are darker, I'd say. Eardis snorted, turning away. Dark doesn't begin to cover it, she said sharply. They pray to the likes of Emprose and Marilyn, the destroyer. Male gods, mind you. Cruel and vain, those ones. They twist their witches with false promises and foul power. Altaluna's smile faltered slightly. They worship Natrix and Lethe too, she added quietly, as though the names themselves carried weight best left untouched. Eardis' voice cut in from the shadows, low and biting. And that's why we call them the Black Witches. Their magic feeds on chaos. While ours, her gaze flicked briefly to Altaluna, comes from balance. From the old gods of judgment and creation. Janus, Sagan, Vels, Runath, Mara, Natrix, and Amate, each born from the breath of the world itself. Their purpose, Altaluna continued, her tone reverent, was to bind the wild chaos and give life order. Judgment made them so, to teach us how to live in harmony between life and death, creation and decay. I listened in silence, my heart thrumming like a drum in my chest. Their words were heavy with mystery and truth, each name a thread in a tapestry far older than I could fathom. I could feel it then, that pulse of ancient power stirring in the ground beneath us, in the air around us, in the faint hum of my own heartbeat. And though I was but a stranger, standing at the edge of their sacred world, I felt a whisper deep inside me, as though the land itself was calling my name. There's only witches, no wizards, I began to say, but before the next word could leave my tongue, Altaluna's hand shot up and clapped gently across my mouth. Her eyes, usually soft and serene, flashed wide with alarm. Eardis spun on her heel, the hem of her moss-green skirt whispering across the earthen floor. Her gaze, sharp as a hawk's, fixed on us. The air turned still, as though the forest itself was holding its breath. We don't speak their names, she warned, her voice low, laced with venom and something older, fear wrapped in defiance. They're the witch killers, the moonless ones. They hunt our kind for gold and favor, offering our ashes to their cold gods. And they've gone mad, all of them, kneeling before the very planets themselves. Her face contorted as she spat the word, as if the mere notion tasted foul on her tongue. Altaluna's eyes softened, and before I could swallow the tension, she let out a peal of laughter, light and musical as wind through bellflowers. I couldn't help but join her, our laughter weaving through the gloom like a charm meant to keep dread at bay. They don't worship the planets, Altaluna said at last, her voice honeyed and knowing. It's more complicated than that. The stones they use, their walls, their wands, they're carved from other worlds. When a wizard claims a wand born of Mars, he's bound to the house of Mars, forever tied to its flame and fury. Each stone, each shard of dust they wield, ties them to their stars. She moved her hands as she spoke, her gestures painting invisible orbits in the air. The firelight flickered against her fingers, making them look like they carried starlight of their own. Irdis shook her head, fiery curls whipping. You give them too much grace, Alti. Wizards and warlocks both, devourers of light, every one of them. Her tone turned brittle, bitter with old memory. And the warlocks, they're worse still. They twist magic to suit their greed. Broken men using broken spells. Altaluna sighed, folding her arms. You make them sound like beasts. She's half right though, she admitted, glancing at me. Warlocks wield shattered magic, fragmented pieces of what once was whole. It's not evil by design, only unstable. Think of it as a patchwork cloak, stitched together from too many different weaves. It frays. It unravels. That's the danger of their craft. I tilted my head, intrigued despite the unease curling in my belly. And how can you tell the difference between what's balanced and what's broken? Irdis brightened, eager to explain. Magic's like a harp string, she said, tracing a circle in the air. Pull too tight, and it snaps. Too loose, and it hums out of tune. White magic mends, dark magic binds, but a warlock mixes the two for his own gain. They take a healer's charm and twist it to curse, or a blessing chant and turn it to rot. Their power feeds on chaos, their songs never stay true. Her words rolled like storm clouds, ancient and heavy with meaning. And the Wiccans? I asked softly, tasting the strange word. Altaluna's eyes shimmered with an old light. The Wiccans, she murmured, as if speaking of a legend half forgotten. Their numbers are few, no more than 6 in all the ages of the world, but their strength, unmatched. They've the power of the sea and the storm combined, Irdis added reverently. They walk between balance and madness. There's a beauty to them, terrible and bright. Altaluna's smile widened, wistful now. They're the only ones who could rival the siren witches, the 4 maidens of the deep. Each one born of salt and song, bound to the world's first tide. The flicker of the hearth danced in her eyes as her tone softened. But enough of that, Lana, she said, taking my hand. Tell me of your home. What became of it? A hush fell. I felt my throat tighten, words clawing their way out like smoke from a dying fire. I don't remember much, I whispered, my voice raw. Only the scent of smoke, bitter, thick, swallowing the sky. The ground was trembling, cinders spilling like blood through my veins. There was screaming. Metal clashing on stone. And the light, so red it burned through my eyelids. Altaluna's hand tightened on mine, her touch grounding me like roots through the soil. Irdis lowered her gaze. By the Morrigan, she murmured softly. That's a sorrow no one should bear. I could only nod, a fragile yeah escaping under my breath. Altaluna reached out, brushing a tear from my cheek. You're safe now, Mo Croy, she said tenderly. You've a home among us, under moon and moss, under witchfire and wind. You're one of us now. And you know, you aren't that bad, she said with a grin that carried both warmth and mischief, her eyes glinting like sunlight scattered across morning dew. Altaluna turned then, leaning close enough that I could feel her breath against my ear. Didn't I tell you they'd love you? She whispered, her voice lilting, gentle as a wind through heather. A blush rose to my cheeks as a strange, pleasant warmth spread through me. For the first time since I'd arrived, I felt the edges of my fear begin to soften. Irdis was by my side now, humming some tuneless melody under her breath, and though I still caught wary glances from Voronina in the distance, I knew that winning her over would seal my place among them. We walked together through a field that looked spun from dreams, a great stretch of long, wild grass rippling like an emerald sea beneath the fading gold of the sky. Each blade seemed alive, whispering secrets of old to the breeze that swept down from the northern hills. Fireflies danced like drifting embers in the dusk, and far off, the faint croon of a nightbird echoed. There in the heart of the field, 9 small beds lay nestled in a perfect ring about a crackling fire. The flames danced and shimmered, their light painting our faces with gold and shadow. It was a strange and beautiful sight, half camp, half ritual circle, like something carved out of a dream the land itself was having. The girls went racing down the hill in a burst of laughter, their hair streaming behind them like ribbons of light. Their voices carried through the evening like a chorus of fae, wild, joyous, and utterly unafraid. From the corner of my eye, I saw Irdis misstep on a tuft of grass and tumble down the slope, rolling over herself like a cat caught in a gale. She landed face first in the mud, and for a moment there was silence, then she popped her head up, cheeks smeared with brown and green, eyes wide and gleaming. "The Hurumam," she cried in some exaggerated tone of mock despair. That was it. Altaluna and I collapsed into laughter so hard my ribs ached. We pulled Irdis upright, her skirts heavy with muck, but she only laughed all the more, wiping her face and smearing it worse. When we finally settled into the beds, soft nests of dried clover and woven rushes, the air was thick with the scent of wild mint and damp grass. The fire popped and sighed, sending tiny sparks spiraling toward the stars. "We'll have to teach you our tongue," Altaluna said suddenly, her voice bright with excitement. Irdis gave a playful snort. "You'll not have her speaking our full speech in one moon's turn, Alti. Be reasonable." Altaluna waved her hand dismissively. She'll pick it up quicker than you think. Start with the easy ones, like Tor Ven Hampek." Irdis nodded solemnly, though a teasing smile played on her lips. "Aye, that one's a must." I furrowed my brow, repeating it under my breath. "Ta. Ven. Hompik." Irdis nearly toppled backward in laughter. "Saints preserve us, that's not even close." Altaluna giggled, clutching her side. "Oh, you'll do fine, lass. Give it a few days." "I can tell you right now," I said, throwing up my hands in defeat, "I'm not saying that properly if it takes me till next winter." That broke whatever restraint was left among us. We fell into laughter again, helpless and wild, the kind that shakes the soul free of its worries. Our mirth mingled with the wind, rising high above the whispering grass until even the stars seemed to be listening. The hours drifted by like petals on a stream. We lay beneath the cloak of night, trading stories and secrets as the fire burned low. They told me of their childhoods among the covens of the north, of spells gone wrong and loves half remembered, of mischief wrought under new moons. In return, I spoke of the home I'd lost, of the orchard behind my mother's house, the songs we used to hum while the world was still kind. By the time the moon stood high and pale, our words had softened into silence, our hearts bound by that strange, ancient kind of friendship born under stars and firelight. Then, as my eyelids grew heavy, I saw it, something at the edge of the field. Just beyond the rise of the hill, where the firelight could not reach, a shadow moved. At first I thought it was the sway of grass, but no, it was too deliberate, too alive. A tall figure, or perhaps several, drifting just beyond sight, half swallowed by the dark. A chill threaded through the air, sharp as winter's breath, and for a heartbeat, the night grew still. The laughter died in my throat, replaced by the heavy silence of something watching. The warmth of the fire no longer felt enough. In a heartbeat, I knew her, Voronina. She stood before me, the moon's pale light washing over her like frost upon stone. Her face was carved in anguish and fury, both her eyes twin embers of betrayal that pierced through the night. It was as though I had robbed her of something sacred, some invisible thread of fate that bound her soul to this place. Her stare fixed upon me like a hawk's upon its prey, fierce and unyielding. "You know," Irdis began, her voice trembling like the edge of a harpstring stretched too tight, "when I earn my place among the true witches, I'll not stay here another season. I'll go beyond the hills, beyond these cursed woods. I'll see the world with my own eyes, meet folk with dreams like mine, girls, men, it matters not. I want love and freedom and all the treasures that lie waiting in the other realms." Her words fell upon the air with the weight of truth, and for a moment, the forest itself seemed to hush in reverence. Altaluna, who stood beside me, turned her face away. The glow in her eyes dimmed, replaced by a sorrow that cut deep. To her, Irdis had always been as a sister, wild, sharp-tongued, but bound by blood and oath. Now she was hearing the confession of a heart that was already halfway gone. "If you girls don't mind," I murmured, the air catching in my throat, "I'd like to walk a bit. To see more of this land." Luna nodded, quiet as snowfall, and I rose from the bed of woven grass. The night wrapped around me like a cloak as I wandered up the hill, my thoughts tangled as the brambles beneath my feet. I couldn't fault Voronina. Her yearning was a mirror of my own, the ache to breathe beyond boundaries, to touch a world that stretched farther than our small, bewitched haven. It was a hunger born of the soul, a wild pulse that no spell could bind. Yet what stung was this: she was beloved here, woven into the fabric of their sisterhood, while I still lingered at the frayed edges, uncertain of my place. The deeper I ventured into the woods, the more alive the world became. At first, I thought I was being watched. 2 pinpricks of gold light gleamed through the trees, and my heart stumbled in my chest. But then they moved, fluttering, drifting, revealing themselves as fireflies, their glow soft and holy, like spirits of the blessed dead. Soon there were dozens, perhaps hundreds, gathering in spiraling dances about me, their light forming circles in the air, weaving through branches and around my arms as though welcoming me into their midnight waltz. The forest hummed with life. The tall ash trees whispered to one another, their branches sighing with secrets too old for human tongues. The ferns rustled underfoot, the scent of earth and moss thick as honey in the air. Somewhere in the distance, a stream murmured over stone, and the sound of a night thrush song threaded through the stillness, a music older than magic itself. Without meaning to, I began to move with it. My feet sank into the damp grass, and I spun, my hair catching stray droplets of dew. The rhythm of the night took hold, pulling me into a quiet dance, light and free. I laughed softly, half yodel, half song, and the sound seemed to ripple through the air like ripples over a lake. But then, the wind shifted. A rustle came from behind me, quick, sharp, deliberate. I froze, my heart thundering in my chest, and turned toward the sound. There she was. Voronina stood at the edge of the clearing, half shadow, half moonlight, her hair wild around her face and her eyes glistening like storm-tossed glass. Tears clung to her lashes but did not fall. In her right hand, she held a blade, a witch's sword, slender and deadly, its edge catching the faint gleam of the stars. For a moment, neither of us moved. The air between us was thick enough to breathe, to taste. "I don't wish to fight you," I said softly, raising my hand, feeling an unfamiliar hum stir in my palm, as though the forest itself were answering my plea. Voronina's breath came fast and ragged. The moonlight framed her like a ghost of some old sorrow, her shadow stretching long across the grass. "No," she whispered. "Then why do I feel as though you've already taken something from me?" The night held its breath. The fireflies dimmed, their glow flickering uncertainly, and all the warmth that had once wrapped the clearing began to fade. The woods grew colder, quieter, watchful, and in that moment, I realized that this meeting was not mere chance. It was a crossing of paths written in old runes, the kind that twist fate and bind souls long before they ever meet. "You came to my hearth," Voronina said, her voice trembling like a wind-bent reed, "demanding an audience to weep and throw your paddles at the feet of strangers because you've lost your dwelling." Her pale hands gripped the sword tighter, the silver glint catching the faint breath of the moon. "But I," she cried, her tone now fierce as a tempest rolling over the cliffs, "will not be part of that audience." In a heartbeat, she lunged forward, her battle cry rising sharp and shrill, the cry of a banshee mourning her own kin. Her sword cut through the air, each swing birthing trails of shimmering light that lingered like halos of restless spirits. The ground quaked beneath her fury. I stumbled backward, my breath caught in my throat, my knees folding as I fell into the soft, dew-laden grass. Fear gripped me, raw, cold, and alive. Yet even as instinct screamed for me to rise, to defend, my limbs betrayed me. I could only stare, wide-eyed, at the storm before me. Then, in the space of a single breath, the storm broke. Her blade hung in the air above me, trembling, not from wind, but from the weight of her own heart. The fire in her gaze dimmed to a flickering sorrow, like a candle's last defiant glow before the dark. She seemed lost, struggling beneath the invisible burden that had driven her, the ache of unspoken longing, the need to prove herself in a world that had never truly seen her. With a dull thud, the blade struck the earth beside me. The soil shivered, swallowing its edge as if to calm her rage. Voronina pressed her hand to her eyes, her breath hitching, her whole frame shaking with a grief too old and too deep for her years. The sobs that tore from her throat were not mere tears, they were keens, ancient as the sea, mourning something sacred and unseen. Slowly, I rose. My heart ached for her, for the sister she could never quite reach, for the life she longed for but could not claim. Without a word, I stepped forward and gathered her into my arms. She did not resist. She collapsed into me like a wave returning to shore, her tears dampening my shoulder, her trembling fingers clutching the fabric of my sleeve. "This is supposed to be my family," she whispered, her words choked with heartbreak. "I must become a witch. For my sister. For her." Her thoughts unraveled into sobs, each one carrying the weight of years spent fighting shadows that bore her own face. "I fought too much with you," she murmured, pulling back at last. Her eyes glimmered, not just with tears, but with the fragile light of understanding. "I can't believe I let all this expectation swallow me whole." A wry smile ghosted her lips. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand and drew a steady breath. "Forgive me for not welcoming you as a woman of our kin should," she said softly, her accent thick and warm, like peat smoke curling from a cottage chimney. She reached for me again, this time with the warmth of true kinship, and embraced me tight, strong, sincere, and full of that quiet, unspoken forgiveness that runs deep in Irish blood. "Come on then," she said after a pause, her voice steadier, the wind back in her spirit. "We'd best get back to the others before the Fae catch our scent." She lifted her sword from the ground, its edge glinting faintly like a promise renewed, and set off down the hill. I followed her in silence, the night thick with the scent of moss and heather. The forest breathed around us, the whisper of leaves, the hum of unseen spirits, the quiet rhythm of the earth still awake beneath our feet. When we reached the clearing, two figures rose from the shadows, Altaluna and Irdis, their faces lighting up as they saw us. Without warning, they ran toward us, skirts billowing, laughter breaking through the cool night air. They crashed into us with such force that the four of us tumbled into the grass, the night alive again with laughter and warmth. The tension of all that had passed melted away like mist at dawn. "So," Irdis teased, her voice lilting and bright as she tucked a lock of hair behind her ear, "are you two done fighting, then? Or shall we fetch the druids to settle it proper?" Her playful grin drew smiles from us all, and for the first time that night, the world felt right again, for souls bound not by blood, but by something far older and stronger. "A friend of my girls is a friend of mine," Voronina said with a smile as soft as moonlight on the loch. Her words carried that lilting warmth only the Irish possess, kindness wrapped in mischief, sincerity veiled beneath charm. The firelight kissed her face, and for a fleeting moment, she looked almost otherworldly, like one of the side come down from the hills to bless us with her company. I breathed in deeply, my heart swelling with a quiet, trembling excitement. Around me sat my sisters in spirit, each one gifted in her own mysterious way, each one bound to me by some unseen thread of fate. Irdis, with her nimble fingers and keen nose, was a mistress of potions and tinctures. She knew the secret hearts of herbs, the way heather sweetens under moonlight, how rowan bark can turn venom to healing if boiled with care. Voronina, ever the warrior, could wield a blade with the grace of a dancer. Her strikes were sure, her will unbending, her eyes the cold blue of an Irish sea in winter. And Altaluna, Altaluna, she was the wild one, her power raw and untempered. It rippled around her like wind through tall grass, too bright, too fierce for any ordinary life. Together they were my circle, my coven, my kin. We weren't bound by blood but by something deeper, older, as if our souls had once shared the same cradle in another lifetime. And together, beneath the shadow of the hawthorn tree, we vowed to seek transformation, not merely of body or power, but of spirit. I longed to become not just a witch, but a siren of the old tales, a creature of song and storm, feared and adored in equal measure. That night, the moon rode high, swollen, and pale as cream, and we began our strange and sacred game. We gathered what the land would give, the slick earth beneath our feet, a smear of cochineal for color, beeswax for binding, the blood of a dove for spirit, and leaves gathered from an autumn tree, each one kissed by its last breath of life. The scent of damp soil and smoke hung heavy in the air as we worked, our laughter mingling with the crackle of the fire. Irdis mixed the ingredients with the precision of a priestess, whispering charms between her teeth. The paste thickened, dark and glimmering, like peat stirred with moonlight. When it was ready, we smeared it across our faces in long streaks, symbols of what we longed to become. Then, hand in hand, we chanted the prayer we'd learned from the old women by the coast, those who spoke of tides and transformation, who claimed to have danced with the Selkies before dawn. I closed my eyes and felt my heart open. In my mind's eye, I became a deer, fleet, graceful, and free, running through endless emerald hills. Altaluna saw herself as a sheep, gentle yet strong beneath her fleece of cloud-white wool. Irdis, forever drawn to the sky, envisioned herself as an African sacred ibis, wings wide, soaring above the green and grey of our world. And Voronina, fiery, proud Voronina, became a white tiger of the mists, her roar echoing through the night like thunder on the cliffs. As the first blush of dawn crept across the horizon, the forest seemed to breathe with us. The fire hissed low, the mist rolled in, and for a heartbeat, I swear the world bent toward us, acknowledging our right. The air shimmered, our laughter felt like birdsong breaking through fog. It was as though the earth itself had listened and, for once, approved. But even in that joy, a shadow stirred. Somewhere far beyond the glade, trouble was gathering, an omen whispered on the wind. At Mama's cottage, the morning calm was shattered by the sound of a door thrown open. Rayu burst in like a storm off the Atlantic, her face flushed, her breath ragged, and in her hand, a raven struggled wildly, feathers flying like black snow. She strode through the cottage and out into Mama's garden, where the old woman knelt among her flowers, tending them as if nothing in the wide world could disturb her peace. With a snarl, Rayu tossed the raven to the ground. "What is it now, Rayu?" Mama asked, her tone calm but edged with weariness, like a mother tired of scolding an unruly child. She turned, her eyes glinting with ancient patience. When her gaze fell on the raven, something flickered there, recognition, and the faintest trace of dread. "I know what you're about," Rayu spat. "You think you can fool us all." She pointed to the bird. "Tell her, raven." The raven stilled, its black eyes gleaming like obsidian marbles. When it spoke, its voice was low and strange, as though echoing from a cave. "The girl, mother," it croaked, "is a witch, and her father, a wizard." A heavy silence followed. Even the garden seemed to hold its breath. Mama rose slowly, her knees creaking, her face unreadable. She brushed the dirt from her palms and sighed, turning back to her flowers. "I know," she said at last, her tone soft as mist over the moors. "Her father is a wizard, Rayu. Of that much, I am aware." Rayu stared, dumbfounded, but Mama said no more. The snip of her shears resumed, the rhythm calm, unbroken. Only the wind seemed to carry the weight of her words, an old truth long known, but never spoken aloud. And far away, where my friends and I still laughed beneath the rising sun, I felt a chill slip down my spine, as though some ancient eye had turned its gaze upon me and found me wanting. Rayu stumbled back as if struck by a sudden gust from the north, confusion and outrage tumbling across her face. The chamber itself seemed to inhale. The old stones pressed close, heavy with 1,000 unspoken rules. What Rayu had just witnessed was no small offense, it was a breaking of a sacred oath, the acceptance of a half-blood wizard into their circle, a thing never done, a thing that put the very bones of their law to shame. Even for Mama, who had long walked a crooked road of her own making, this felt like betrayal writ large. "What, Mama, have you lost your mind?" Rayu cried, her voice ricocheting off damp walls like a thrown stone. In the shadowed corner a raven crouched, feathers ruffled, uneasy with the rising storm, and beating its great black wings against the air. "Raven, you may leave now," Mama said, with a calm that was colder than the sea. The bird took flight at once and shot through the doorway. The heavy panel slammed behind it as though the house itself wished to bar out the world. Rayu took another step forward, but the floor seemed to cling to her soles. An instinctive dread crept up her spine, a prickling like nettles under skin. The candle flames guttered as if in warning, then went out in turn. For a moment the only light in the room came from the palms of a woman who was not Mama, a pale, uncanny glow that wrapped her hands like lanterns. Rayu moved on reflex, drawing steel in one smooth motion. but the stranger snapped her fingers and the blade flew from Ryu's grip, thudding harmless into the stone with a dull sound. Ryu's breath came fast. She tried to command herself, to speak, to stand tall. Then the torchlight found the stranger's face. It was Yoga Bell, the general of the Red Clover, not as rumor had painted her in scraps and whispers, but terrible and real and walking like a shadow. Her black hair fell about her like a storm cloud, and her gown trailed the floor as if night itself clung to her heels. Her eyes, red and hard as the last embers of a peat fire, seemed to drink the light from the room. "You've grown up fast," she said, the words sliding out silk-thin and sharp. The air trembled with her presence. Even the rafters seemed to lean in. "What do you want with my people, Yoga Bell?" Ryu breathed, half a plea, half a challenge. "To break our treaties for, what? Power?" Yoga Bell laughed, a cold sound that skittered like icicles. "Not merely power, child," she said, stepping closer with a cat-like grace. "Eternity. Our coven made a bargain long ago, a prophecy inked in salt and bone. One of your kind would rise a siren. The other would go to my house. But fate, like a blind spinner, turned a different thread that night. I saw what was coming, and I chose to seize it." Her voice curled in on itself, lowering to a whisper that tasted of iron and old vows. "I came here, I struck down your leader, and I took her guise to walk among you. I waited a year for the right shape to show, and when she returned I realized I would not be content with one. I will take one which to stand in my court and keep the other to sow the dark into your lands. Balance, child, is a ladder, and I intend to climb it alone." Ryu's laugh cracked then, a brittle thing. "You're mad," she spat. "If it's Lana you want, take her and be damned. Leave us our bones. Your coven has sucked dry what we had, why not leave us in peace?" Yoga Bell's smile was a blade. "Do not turn this into the tale of your mother. She died like many do, throwing herself between the world and what would break it. I have no quarrel with her memory." She stepped close enough that Ryu could smell peat and cold rain on her cloak. "My quarrel is with the Midwest itself. I will unmake it." Ryu tried to call the old words, to throw a ward between Yoga Bell and her kin, and for a breath the oak rafters seemed ready to carry her cry. But Yoga Bell was quicker. She wound her fingers through the air like a fiddler through a tune, and a black thing slid from her mouth, a spirit, thin as thistledown and cruel as frost. It struck Ryu full in the breast, and the blow threw her to the floor. The chamber went very quiet but for the roar of Ryu's breath. Yoga Bell knelt, leaning down until her face was level with Ryu's. Her hand closed in Ryu's hair, lifting the head as if to look a child in the eye. "You think you can stop me?" she whispered, the words a winter wind. Her grin showed no joy, only the satisfaction of someone who knows the path she walks and fears no one who would stand in it. Outside, the storm answered with a great roll like the sea breaking on distant cliffs, and inside, by the light that remained, the coven felt the shape of things to come tighten like a noose. A hush fell like a wet cloak across the chamber, and whatever small warmth had lingered in Ryu's face drained away. It began as a subtle wrongness, the skin along her temples puckered as if a cold wind had pressed itself from within, a faint steam rising that smelled of iron and peat. Her eyes bulged, rimmed in a fierce, sorrowful red, and a ragged cough tore itself from her chest like a gull's last cry. She clutched at herself, fingers trembling, and the sound she made was not simply a cry but the keening of some old hurt reawakened. Yoga Bell watched with the slow, dark fascination of a raven observing a dying light. No pity softened her features. Instead, a small, cruel smile traced her mouth as if she were watching a play unfold to its bitter end. Around the elder's shoulders, the torches guttered, and shadows reached like black ivy, curling about the stones. "You know what?" Yoga Bell said at last, her voice silk over steel, as composed as a woman who has measured the tides. "I think it's time Lana takes her place. And while we're at it, why not cut the root of our troubles? Let us begin a war with the wizards so that they can erase us like old chalk from a slate." She swept her hand in a careless arc, as one might clear crumbs from a table, and Ryu slid from her feet to the earthen floor. She did not fall with a noble wound but with the spent air of someone betrayed by their own blood. The room smelled of peat smoke and iron. The old, quiet sounds of the house seemed to recoil. "The Red Clover never broke the treaty," Yoga Bell added, her tone theatrical, as if quoting from some far older ledger. But treaties are for the timid. We will write our own ending. The sight of Yoga Bell, so calm, so certain, watching Ryu's limbs loosen as if a puppeteer had cut her strings, made the hairs along my arms stand up like bristles. It was not the cruelty alone that chilled me, but the awful orderliness of it, a plan laid out like a map, every terrible step already inked. Ryu lay still for a long moment, breath shallow, eyes glazed with the distance of someone who has seen the other side of a hill. Around her, the coven's murmurs faltered, a web of disbelief knitting and unraveling at once. Yoga Bell's laughter, low and satisfied, rolled through the stone like distant thunder. She crouched then, close enough that her cloak brushed Ryu's hair, and spoke as one might to a child about a lesson. "I will have what fate promised," she said softly. "One witch for my court, one for the sea of my making. Balance will bend to me, or I will break it." Outside, the storm that had been gathering all night answered her, wind thrashing the trees, rain beginning to slap at the windows, an old world seeming to roar approval or warning. In the small, firelit room, the covenant of sisters felt suddenly fragile as spun glass.